upon a time, in the western part of Nigeria, lived a young man named Dozie, who left his father's land and throne at an infant age. His father, the late king, was murdered by his evil brother Mbakwe, who took over the throne, while his mother died after giving birth to him, leaving him in the care of her most trusted maid, Ebere. Before the queen died, Ebere promised her to bring Dozie back to his father's land when he is old enough to take back what was rightfully his. After the queen's death, she ran away with the baby to a far village where no one would be able to recognize her, and she took very good care of the prince, right from birth as her own. Since Mbakwe became the king, things began to get worse for the villagers as the gods were silent and had turned it back on them because of the atrocities committed in the land by Mbakwe and some of the elders in council. Mbakwe ruled over the people with evil, hardship, and pain, and any man who dares to challenge him would be killed and his wife would become his wife. The villagers lived in fear and abject poverty as their crops began to die, streams dried off, and their children began to die of hunger. Other villagers refused to help them of food and water. They mocked them of killing their king and allowing an evil man like Mbakwe to rule over them. And they were banned from stepping their coarse foot into their land. The villagers suffered for many years in pain and agony, but Mbakwe was never remorse by the suffering of his subjects. He was so concerned of the throne and pleasure in killing. His evil deeds brought an unforgettable curse upon the land as the villagers suffered for his sins. Few years later, rumors began to spread round the village about the crown prince being alive. When Mbakwe heard about the rumors, fear of losing the throne and power began to give him sleepless nights. He mounted his guards in 4 corners of the village in search of the prince. He also instructed them to kill him if found. They searched and searched and searched as days turned into weeks, but their search were in vain. One evening, Prince Dozie was asleep when he had a dream. He saw himself in a royal attire with a golden crown resting on his head. Then he saw women and children crying out for help. Suddenly, an old man appeared to him, telling him to come back home to save his people from suffering and dying. He woke up terrified and worried. The next morning, he told Ebere about the dream. Ebere began to cry as she told him about his true identity and all that has happened years back. He was surprised to hear all that, and he pleaded with her to embark on a journey to his father's land to save his people. Days later, they arrived at the village and decided to visit the oldest and wise man in the village. He helped them talk to the villagers and the youth of the village and told them the truth about the true heir to the throne. He pleaded with them to support him, and together they would defeat the evil king Mbakwe. The villagers were extremely happy that soon all their suffering would come to an end. They also met with the chief priest and they all agreed to fight together in one voice. 2 days later, they all arrived at the palace, protesting for King Mbakwe to step down. When King Mbakwe saw Prince Dozie, who looked so much like his late brother whom he murdered years ago, he got scared and worried. He ordered his guards to kill him, but they refused to carry out his order. They all wanted peace and freedom. Then he decided to kill the prince himself. When the guards stopped him and they killed him, all the elders in council who were in support of him were banished to a far land and never to return. Mbakwe's head was used to cleanse the land, and Prince Dozie was crowned as the rightful king, the true heir to the throne. And the peace the villagers once had was restored back, and since then they lived in peace and increase of joy.